We all make choices in life, and sometimes those choices can lead to a bad end. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. Hope you're having a good day today. I need to tell you about this new independent film, Kindred. I have the director on here, Joe Marcantonio, all the way from the UK. Look at this. This is great. Thank you for staying up late to talk to me. It's early. This film is, I mean, definitely has elements of horror, certainly suspense. And I feel like every character in Kindred is doing the right thing from their perspective. They all think that they're doing the right thing. Where does this, first of all, tell me where the project came from and how you put together this amazing cast.
So I did a short film with a producer I'd met, and the short film called Red Light, and it did fairly well for itself. And it had Jessie Buckley in it, who's doing quite well now. She was just in that Charlie Kaufman film that came out. And so after we finished the short, Dom and I were chatting about trying to get a feature done. And I'd written a couple at this point, but they were all quite big and sprawling. It didn't seem right as a first-time film. So we looked through my ideas folder, and there's an idea that I'd written about 10 years ago, about a family who take a lady in who's pregnant, and I thought, that's suddenly much more interesting than it used to be. And I think it's because I'd had a kid and I had another baby not me, my wife had another baby on the way. It kind of opened up a new perspective on it that I didn't have before. So we set to work really doing that. I drafted in my friend Jason from, I'd known since film school back in like 99. And we worked, he had twins due as well. And we set to work, got it out there, finished the draft fairly quick because we kind of knew what we were doing, what we wanted, and then got a good casting agent involved, and then we got Jack. And then as soon as you get one decent actor, they're like a flagpole, and you can kind of base all the other cast around it, So as soon as we had him snared, tricked into doing it, then all of a sudden it meant that we could approach people like Fiona Shaw, and then luckily she was into it, and we were away really.
Well, there's an amazing moment early in the film that kind of sets off all the events, and what I love that you did with this moment is you didn't show it. Mm-hmm. We see the results of this moment. Tell me about that choice. And I think it was, I think that was a great, I think you could have done it much differently, but I think that decision kind of added to sort of the horror and also show the perspective that, of course, the film is being, the point of view, right? Mm-hmm. But tell me about that choice. I thought that was a big decision.
So I think you used the right word there, and the idea of perspective, basically. We wanted a film that initially, when it starts off, is from the point of view of a couple, it's from Ben and Charlotte together. But then as the film plays out, we realize that the film is actually Charlotte's film after all. We do things visually that really begin to illustrate that she is our main character, and what we are seeing and feeling and the way the camera is moving is all about what she is experiencing and the kind of what is going on kind of in her mind and kind of in her innermost being, as it were. So that was the plan. So the reason we didn't show that is because literally Charlotte doesn't see it. We only see things she does, really. We added these visual kind of dream sequences in as well, and that was about cementing the fact that her perspective is key to the film. The way the camera moves as well, we're always moving the camera only if we are moving it for her benefit, because we are doing something that she is feeling or wanting or needing.
What I really loved about the film is that it takes an event, a life event, one of life's key events, right? The coming of a child, right? Pregnancy, and this, the birth that will occur. And that is a joyous event. As yourself, you've experienced it. I'm a father. I have 2 kids. I was in the delivery room both times for the birth of my kids, and this is a joyous event. you have completely taken that and flipped it into a horrific event based on the circumstances and Charlotte's captivity, so to speak. Tell me what it was like to and I'm just curious the reaction of both men and women to it and how they might react differently, because that's what I think is so effective about this film is this point of view of taking this traditionally joyous event and flipping it 100%, 180 degrees the other direction.
Yeah, I think there's a few answers to this. I think the reality of it is that, I had two children that we planned, I was very happy to have them, but I can't run away from the fact that it's not a decision that I took lightly. What Charlotte experiences is not a million miles away from how freaked out I was, when we were having kids, and after we'd written kind of most of the outline, but then when it came to physically writing the script, by that point I'd had my daughter and I delivered her myself on our bedroom floor downstairs because we didn't make it to the hospital. It was just me and my wife in the room, and that was a fairly terrifying event. And I think it was a way of me dealing with what I'd been through, and Jason had twins and they were premature and they were in incubators in the hospital for over a month, so we were dealing with stuff, and it was a slightly cathartic experience in a funny kind of way. And often in films, like you say, it's a champagne moment, oh, I'm having a baby, congratulations, great, everyone's overjoyed. But the reality, the authentic world for myself, and at least a few of my peers and people I know, when they find out they're having kids, is like, oh shit, I'm having a kid, man. What am I going to do? How am I going to afford it? Where are we going to live? I don't own a house. I only rent. I don't have a proper job. All those things you go through when you have a kind of unexpected pregnancy that aren't often portrayed in film,
Well, I think you did it so well. I feel like I can always tell when a filmmaker doesn't have children or hasn't had that experience. And I feel like you captured 100% the fears that every parent goes through. I think it's definitely easier the second time around. You've been through it, so you kind of know the drill. You're not freaking out. But I feel like you captured that so well in this film. What went into, there's also some stuff that I completely did not expect in terms of stunts and driving. Can you talk about shooting? There's a dramatic car accident, at some point in the film. And can you talk about shooting that and what that was like? That really just threw me for a loop.
Yeah. So that was our last shot on our last day of filming. We'd shot with this Range Rover because when I was a kid, my dad's friend had one. We used to go camping together, and I always remembered this kind of maroon-colored thing. So I was really keen to get that for the film. And then we had to find one that we could trash, and it was the wrong color. They had to respray it, and it became a bit of a number. But my kind of directing whim wasn't the easiest thing to deal with for them. But we basically found one and just had to literally build a ramp in the middle of the road and launch the thing. And we had one shot, one take. Managed to have two cameras on it. My second unit guy is my really good friend Owen, who the writer Jason and I have been friends with since film school, and he was hiding behind a brick wall, hoping the car wouldn't end up on top of him. And yeah, I was in the tracking vehicle with the camera on an arm, just with kind of all my fingers and my toes crossed that it would happen how we wanted it to. And it literally couldn't have worked out any better. The car flips, launches, crashes, and flips back around so you can see the bonnet and everything was kind of, it was a dream. The irony is, I went from shooting that with a crew of 60 or 70 people, and then 3 weeks later, the next time I shot anything was like a little kind of corporate job, and it was literally me in a boardroom with a camera in one hand and a microphone in the other, and like a lamp set up, kind of one man banding it. I live quite a varied life by the looks of it.
Talk to me about psychological horror. That happens to be my personal favorite type of horror. As much as I know horror fans love gore and blood and guts, I'm a fan of psychological horror because I actually think it's just far more effective. It's like worms its way into your brain, so to speak. And I feel that what you've done with Kindred is so effective in a psychological horror sense. Can you talk to me about that and the ways in which you sort of added those layers that will kind of work on people after they've seen the film?
So I think the first thing we did, or one would do when you decide what kind of film you want to make, is you have to look at the other films of that type and work out what works and what doesn't, do some reading, do some watching. And I think what Hitchcock said about the difference between suspense and horror, and that horror is you walk past the doorway and someone jumps out and shouts boo, whereas suspense is someone's in the doorway and you see the person walking down the corridor and the person's going to jump out at them, and building that tension before the event. That's the difference. And I think that's something that interests me more. I just find it more in tune with the kind of films I want to make. There's a time and a place for horror, don't get me wrong, but I'm a psychological horror fan, I think. So you watch a lot of Hitchcock films. You watch Psycho, and like Notorious has got some amazing sequences with the wine in the cellar and the keys. And you look at even more modern stuff, something like, it's not the most wonderful example, but like 10 Cloverfield Lane has got some stuff that they lifted from Notorious. There's a key sequence at the dining table, and the way that they cut that sequence together works really well. And you work out what works for you, and then you try and find ways of telling the story in your own unique way, So yeah, there's a list as long as my arm of reference points, but you try and chew all those up and spit out your own thing in a weird way, if that doesn't sound too disgusting.
No. I want to ask you, congratulations on the film, by the way. What's on your board in the background? I notice.
So that is something I'm writing, in fact, with the guy who shot Second Unit, Owen, and I. We've gone what hopefully is going to be my next project, which I co-wrote with him and I'm directing. That's just gone to cast, and this is something new I'm writing with him that's more in the vein of Kindred, I guess. It's like more of a kind of murder mystery, kind of thrillery kind of thing, but it's very early days. So that is kind of, the board's out of date by about a week or 2 weeks. It's now in an outline kind of on the computer, and then we're going to finish that off hopefully, and I'm hoping to have the outline finished by the time Kindred comes out so I can kind of shop it around, but we'll see if that happens or not. But it's my first American set project.
Oh, nice.
We'll see whether that gets any takers or not.
Well, hopefully you can come here and shoot it. I don't know.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see.
We're kind of living a horror film right now.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
In America.
Yeah.
Hopefully ending soon. Joe, thank you so much for being on the Film Threat.
No problem. No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Congratulations on Kindred. I also want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. Go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. Joe, can't wait to see what you do next. Just
Thank you very much.
Amazing work. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.